Hey, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, also known as the Pajama Grandma. I don't know if I've shared that on this segment that I go as a Pajama Grandma sometimes because I'm in my robe a lot of the time. For a lot of reasons. I've got a long history of chronic pain. I am actually visually challenged, very visually challenged, and for other reasons. But BP Challenge, day 17. What are we doing? What are we thinking about? We are talking about handling conflicting expert advice. Now, the last couple of days, we've looked at different experts. I picked 3 on purpose. I want you to always have more than one person that you looked at because of the topic we're going to talk about just briefly today, conflicting expert advice. Have you ever been looking into something and found out that some of the top experts in the area you're looking at have different advice? They have different ways of solving the same problem because there are infinite ways and infinite possibilities to solve any possible problem we could ever have on the planet. There's a lot of different ways we could do it. And the way one expert does it could be totally different from the way another expert does it. Think of, and I've never done it, but think of different psychotherapy treatment methodologies. You know, they used to electric shock people. They used to give them drugs. They used to do talk therapy, and there's all different things. And now I know nothing about psychology, so maybe that's not a really good example for me to use, but it's something that a lot of us can relate to because we've heard about it. We've heard different methodologies before. The same is true of anything that we're trying to do. So as you've been exploring and going through and getting expert advice, I suspect, like me, you've already found some conflicting advice. Some of the things I can think of with respect to the challenge I'm doing with respect to getting my blood pressure down, I've heard different amounts of supplements that you should take. I mean, vastly different amounts. I've heard you should cut back on salt. You don't have to cut back on salt. I've heard you should do a lot of exercise. I've heard you should do a little exercise. So there's all kinds of different conflicting pieces of information that I'm getting as I'm doing my research. Well, how do you handle that? What do you do about it? Well, the thing I want to do is share what I call PSDM, Problem Solving Decision Making Method. And it's really a little cycle. And I drew a picture because I'm such a talented artist. Not really, but to remind me of the steps. And maybe I'll clean this up and make it a little better. But I know the steps, but to help you remember the steps, I wanted to create this little graphic. And I'm like, maybe these little symbols don't mean anything to you, but it worked for me at the time, and I just popped it off this morning. But there's something called the problem-solving decision-making cycle, because guess what? Once we solve one problem, another problem is going to pop up, and we're going to have to do that. So we're going to go through this cycle over and over again of how do we solve problems. Now, it's going to look suspiciously like parts of the challenge that we're doing, right? And that is not a coincidence. It's because problem-solving decision-making is part of the overall how do you get what you want process, right? Because when we go for something that we want, a lot of times obstacles and challenges pop up, and we need to overcome them in order to get to that end goal, to get to the thing that we want. So what the heck are these symbols, and what does this cycle mean? Of course, the first thing we need to do is identify the problem. So say I'm getting conflicting advice. Some other areas you might get conflicting advice. I'm looking at my notes because I wrote down and did the assignment already for myself, and that is, might as well share that with you right now. We are going to look at the information that you've gathered, or actually, I did mine. You are going to look at yours, and you're going to look at the information that you gathered, or just ask yourself the question, okay, what are 3 areas or 3 pieces of advice that I'm seeing, or 3 pieces of information I'm seeing that have conflicting information about them? So for example, me, exercise, sodium, nutrition, I've got conflicting information in all 3 of those areas. I've also got other conflicting information, but those are the 3 that popped into my head first today. And that's all you need to do is say, okay, here's bing, 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 3 areas where I've seen conflicting information. If you're going for adding more customers to your business, for example, somebody might say, oh, you got to use social media. And another person might say, social media is the worst place to go if you want to add more customers to your particular business. Or they might say, LinkedIn is the best social media platform, and somebody else might say Facebook is the best social media platform. So just quick and easy, 3 areas that you've seen conflicting information on. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about a really quick and dirty specific tool for doing this, but I want to go through quickly the overall process of solving problems and making decisions based on, and especially based on different sources and different pieces of information. So what the heck is the process? Well, first, of course, you have to identify the problem. What are you trying to solve? Me, trying to get my blood pressure down. How do I do that? And how do I do that? One expert says A, B, C, D. Another expert says, here's the 10 things you can do. Another expert says, here's the 15 things you can do. And it gets really interesting, right? And some of those things are the exact opposite of one another. So I want to gather that information. That's the second step. I'm going to identify what is the problem. What are the possible solutions? I'm going to look at all the possible solutions and all the possibilities. I'm going to probably break that down. So when it comes to supplements, for example, with respect to lowering your blood pressure, or nutrition and diets, we're going to talk about nutrition in a couple of weeks for me, but right now, let's just use supplements as an example. As I look at different experts and different advice with respect to what supplements you should take to get your blood pressure down, there's a ton of conflicting advice around that. So how am I going to decide? I'm going to sit down, and it could be super simple or complicated. I'm going to take out a piece of paper and say, this is a supplement, magnesium. This is the amount that each expert recommends. And then I'm going to look at it and think about, and I might have to actually use myself as a science experiment and test different quantities over periods of time to find out what is the right amount of magnesium for me. And I might find that magnesium, no matter what quantity, doesn't make a difference for my blood pressure for me at all. It might work on some people, but it might not work on me. So I'm going to pick one thing. I'm going to test that one thing on myself. I'm going to see what results I get. If I get a result that I like, I'm going to find a way to automate that, bring that into my world, taking magnesium at the certain quantity at a certain time of day, and I'm going to just make that automatic. I'm going to make that a habit. I already have made taking supplements for my health a daily habit, and I've got one of those month or weekly pill packs where it's got, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then bedtime. And so I separate out all the different supplements that I already take. But if I find I don't take magnesium, so if I find out magnesium is one I need to be taking in a certain quantity, I'll just put it in the right time of day pill pack, and I'll take it every day, and it will just become automatic. I actually have alarms set on my phone to remind me to take my supplements, because sometimes I forget. So that's the process. Identify the problem, brainstorm possible solution. Let's do this. Brainstorm possible solutions. So that's a little storm cloud. What's the problem? Question mark. Brainstorm possible solutions. Pick one. Test that one. Notice what the results are. A+, it works for me, so I'm going to automate that. This is supposed to be little cogs or little gears to mean automation. And then I'm going to repeat the process for the next thing, for the next piece of information. Today is just to get an overview of that process, and that we're going to be always doing that, and then understand that there's probably a lot more than 3 pieces of conflicting information that you gathered, but just pick 3, the 3 that pop into your head the fastest. Just write them down, and then we'll use them tomorrow for tomorrow's daily challenge to get whatever you want in the next 90 days, to really map out, and not just map out, but to actually take action and do a little thing every day to move you toward what it is that you want. So that's it. 3 things that are conflicting information, and tomorrow I will show you a dead nuts on, easy, super simple way without having to do anything. No fancy equipment, no science, no math, no nothing. Just you. All you need to do tomorrow's methodology of handling conflicting information, it's all within you already, so it's super easy to do. Because guess what? Wherever you go, you bring you with you, and that makes the task that we're going to do, or the thing we're going to do, the challenge tomorrow, super duper easy. You can do it anywhere, anytime. All right. Have an amazing day. I'll, of course, be with you tomorrow. If I can help you in any way, hit me up in the comments below. If you have any questions so far, if you're struggling with any step or anything in the process, if I haven't explained it so that you understand it, let me know, and we'll have a little chat about it. So I make sure that we don't lose anybody along the way, because this is too important to you in your life to not just take a couple of minutes every day to make it happen for you. All right, catch you tomorrow. Bye.